James Harper never imagined the worst humiliation of his life would happen on the very night everyone gathered to honor him. After 38 years working as a city sanitation supervisor in Chicago, he stood proudly at his retirement banquet surrounded by coworkers, neighbors, and family. He had spent nearly 4 decades waking before sunrise, working through snowstorms, floods, and brutal summers to provide a stable life for the people he loved. But to his wife Linda and their 2 children, none of that mattered. To them, James was simply the garbage man. While his coworkers respected him, his family quietly looked down on him for years. His son Brandon, a law student, avoided telling friends what his father did for a living. His daughter Alyssa, fresh out of business school, acted embarrassed whenever family conversations turned toward James's work. Linda often joked in front of guests that her husband was simple and never ambitious. What none of them knew was that James had spent the last 20 years quietly building wealth. Every overtime shift, every holiday emergency call, every weekend he sacrificed. He invested the money carefully into commercial storage units, rental homes, and small apartment buildings across Illinois. While his wife spent freely on appearances and luxury shopping, James studied investments late at night after work. By the time he retired, the quiet sanitation worker owned 14 income-producing properties, generating nearly $18,000 every month. But his family never cared enough to ask. Months before retirement, James began noticing changes in Linda: secret phone calls, late-night gym sessions, hidden text messages. Eventually, he discovered she was having an affair with a fitness instructor named Eric. At the same time, Linda had been secretly preparing divorce papers, convinced James was just an aging blue-collar worker with little money and no future. Their children supported her decision. They believed their mother deserved better. The betrayal reached its peak during James's retirement party. In front of over 100 guests, Linda stood up during her speech, smiled politely, and handed James an envelope. Divorce papers. The room fell silent. Then Brandon shocked everyone by saying, "Honestly, this is probably the best thing for everyone." Alyssa laughed and added, "Finally." The crowd froze in disbelief as James's own children celebrated the destruction of their parents' marriage. But instead of breaking down, James smiled. Calmly, he folded the divorce papers, placed them in his jacket, and began speaking. He revealed Linda's affair. He exposed how long the family had looked down on him. And finally, he revealed the truth about his finances. The worthless garbage man they mocked was actually a millionaire. James explained that he owned millions in real estate and earned more money every month from investments than most doctors and lawyers. The room exploded with shock. Linda's face turned pale. Brandon realized the father he considered unsuccessful had secretly built generational wealth. Alyssa burst into tears after understanding how badly they had misjudged him. But the biggest shock came next. Because James had structured every investment separately under his own accounts and businesses, Linda was entitled to almost nothing in the divorce. Instead of walking away with millions, she received only a small portion of their home equity and savings. Everything else belonged to James. Within weeks, her boyfriend disappeared after learning she wasn't rich. The children soon faced financial problems of their own. Brandon couldn't afford law school tuition. Alyssa failed to secure funding for her startup business. For the first time in their lives, they realized how much their father had quietly sacrificed for them. Both eventually came back asking for help. But James refused to simply hand them money. Instead, he taught them the lesson they should have learned years earlier. Respect matters more than wealth. Brandon eventually dropped his arrogance, took a regular job, and learned the value of honest work. Alyssa built her business slowly without relying on family money. Over time, the children changed, not because they lost access to wealth, but because they finally understood the man they had spent years underestimating. As for James, he retired peacefully, financially free, no longer surrounded by people who only valued him when they thought he was rich. And for the first time in decades, the quiet man who spent his whole life cleaning up after others finally chose himself.